Here's what you should know about your local housing market in this week's market update. So this past week I've had some extremely attractive homes on the market. So I got flooded with a lot of phone calls from interested buyers. And one of the most common phone calls I received was as soon as I picked up the phone, the way these people introduced themselves was, "Hi, I'm a cash buyer and I'm interested in this property." And I swear you must have been able to hear my eyes roll in the back of my head over the phone. If you are a cash buyer, don't do this. Really don't do this. First of all, if you're a cash buyer, I don't really care. In most cases, a mortgage is just as good as cash. In this market, most buyers with a mortgage are waiving their appraisal, which is kind of the biggest obstacle to overcome for a mortgage, even though it's really not that big of an obstacle anyway. But most buyers with mortgages are waiving their appraisal. So for all intents and purposes, I'm not really looking at cash buyers all that much differently. And a smart agent shouldn't. If a buyer's coming in and they're waiving their appraisal and they're making the proper concessions to compete effectively, there's really not a big differential between a buyer with a mortgage and a cash buyer. Maybe the cash buyer can close a little quicker if that seller's looking to close quickly. Not many of my sellers are looking to close quickly enough where it will matter. So really all that's telling to me is when someone's calling me and the first thing I say is I'm a cash buyer, most of the time that tells me it's like they're saying, "Hey, I'm going to be difficult. I'm expecting people to bend over backwards or give me a special deal because of that," and that's not going to happen. It's really not. No one's going to sell you their house at significantly lower than another offer just because you're paying with cash, because that seller is going to get cash at the closing table, whether it's from you directly or from your mortgage company. So if you are a cash buyer, you still need to get your strategy straight because that cash is not going to get the house in and of itself. The other thing I'm seeing a lot of is buyers calling directly and saying, "Hey, I don't have an agent, but I'd be happy to work with you." Thinking that, wow, I'm going to all of a sudden get this extra special treatment because this agent now is going to earn extra commission by having both sides of the deal. While, yes, that is attractive to me as an agent, of course, we all are in here not only to help people, but to make some money. I don't get too optimistic about those situations. Number one, I'm going to play fair and I'm going to advise my sellers properly. So while I would really hope that a buyer that I'm representing will get their offer accepted, I'm not going to convince my seller to take a worse offer just because it's mine. If there's another better offer, then they're going to get the house, whether they're working with another agent or me. But on top of that, as much as the idea of working with both the buyer and the seller in a transaction is exciting, it's a different story if I have a buyer that I've been working with and I've prepared. If you're working with me as a buyer right now, we have a initial onboarding call. It's a continual educational process to really prep you to be prepared to make a strong offer. So when someone calls me directly on a house that I'm representing the seller on and says, "I'm interested, I want to see it today, and I'd like to work with you directly," I know that there's a good chance that they're not going to get that house, because while they do have the advantage of working with me because I really know my stuff and I'm really good at preparing buyers to make a strong, attractive offer, we're working with a really short time frame there and likely not enough to properly prepare you to make a strong offer. So you're really putting yourself at a disadvantage when you're calling the listing agent directly. Number one, you're taking a gamble on if that agent is able to advise you effectively. You don't know how good that agent is, and even if that agent is good, a good agent is going to need to prepare you ahead of time, and you're just not giving them enough time to prepare you effectively to make a strong offer. So that being said, let's get into the stats this week and see how the market's shaping up in Morristown and Morris Township. So this past week in Morristown and Morris Township, we saw 13 homes come on the market. 8 of those were in town, and 5 of those were in township. We saw 10 of those were single family houses, and 3 of those were condos or townhouses. Average list price of these homes. The average list price of these homes was $783,000. Total inventory. We have seen an uptick this past week. We now have 48 homes actively on the market. So we went from the low 40s last week to the high 40s this week. So 48 homes actively on the market is a step in the right direction. That is promising. Let's see if that sticks. We have not seen any of these upticks in the past few months sustain for more than a few weeks. So while it is promising, we'd like to see if that can stick around and hopefully continue to increase to a more attractive number. Sold homes. This past week we saw 19 homes sell. That's a lot more than we've seen in previous recent weeks. So 19 homes sold this past week. Out of the average list price of those homes was $870,000. The average sale price of those homes was $926,000. So this past week, we saw homes sell at an average of 6.3% above list price. And those homes were on the market for an average of 17 days. So even with a larger sample size, we are seeing homes sell still significantly above list price, and they're on the market for a short amount of time. And then under contract homes, this past week, we saw 7 homes go under contract. Average list price of these homes was $839,000, and the median days on the market for these homes was 15 days. So once again, selling quickly, not on the market for very long. So thanks for checking in with me. I really do appreciate all the feedback that I'm getting from you. So feel free to reach out to me in person, online, DM, text message, with all the questions you might have about the local housing market, the new buyer's agency rules, you name it. I'm more than happy to answer your questions, especially the tough ones. I love tough questions. So thanks for checking in. I hope you have a great weekend, and I'll catch you guys again soon.